I have been given a gift. Just me, specifically, and really nobody else, especially not the people of Spain. Because Spain has a bit of a problem when it comes to their rail lines. And before I begin, I want to thank two other YouTubers, actually, who did some of the grunt work for me, because certain countries are easier for me to research than others. And this is mostly down to language barriers. As you can imagine, Spain tends to speak Spanish, and I don't really speak Spanish hardly at all, whatsoever. But in this case, the two on-the-scene sources I've managed to find happen to be two other YouTubers. The first is OM The Rails, who is a criminally underrated YouTuber in my opinion, as he goes around and basically reviews train trips. He does speak English, based on his accent. I think he's British, but I'm actually not sure. I don't know him personally. Regardless though, he did an excellent overview on Spain's latest high-speed train set, the Talgo AVRIL. He titled his video, "Why the brand new Talgo AVRIL is Europe's worst high-speed train." So we're off to a great start. I will leave a link to that video, as well as his channel, in the description below, as I think a lot of you would appreciate what he does. The other individual goes by Viajando Contigo, who, well, I don't know if he doesn't speak English, but I know he predominantly speaks Spanish because his video was in Spanish. But the closed captioning provided an English translation for what he was saying, so he provided a lot of information as someone who, I believe, lives in Spain and has to deal directly with this issue. I will also leave a link for his video and his channel in the description below. Either way, so what's going on? Talgo AVRIL, what's going on, guys? Well, the Talgo AVRIL is supposed to be the pinnacle of Spanish rail engineering, because it is a Spanish-made product. It's manufactured by Talgo, which is in fact a Spanish manufacturer of intercity, standard, and high-speed passenger trains. And the AVRIL was designed to be utilized in high-speed service by Renfe Operadora, which is Spain's national state-owned railway company, their nationalized railway system effectively. And at face value, this is great, because A, high-speed rail, we like it. B, you're sourcing it from within your own country. A Spanish-built train for the Spanish railway system built by Spaniards for Spaniards. This order and arrangement dates all the way back to 2016. The trains were intended to have a top speed of 380 kilometers per hour or 240 miles per hour, and the overall setup is fairly standard to most high-speed train sets. Front and rear power cars, and 8 trailer cars in between those power cars. They are electric EMUs, and are predominantly powered by overhead catenaries, but they do have onboard generators for hybrid propulsion. The trailer cars are actually a lot shorter than typical though, however they are wider, approximately 10 feet wide, 3.2 meters, and in theory this should allow them to contain more seats, but they set up the standard ones, not the first class ones, but the standard ones in a 3+2 seating arrangement, giving passenger capacity of up to 600. First class is 2+2. Their traction system is compatible with multiple voltages because they need that on Spanish rail lines, and the train is set up with a very distinctive and actually quite revolutionary gauge-changing system, because the Spanish lines have two predominant gauges, because Spain is much like Australia and doesn't get the standardization thing very well. But the trains are actually able to change gauges pretty much on their own, which is very cool if I'm being honest. I like that. I feel like if you had set up your lines to be standard, you wouldn't have to do that at all. But if you aren't going to do that, this is a pretty cool solution, not gonna lie. Credit when it's due, because that particular element seems to be one of the only elements of this particular train set that works. The concept for the AVRIL was posted by Talgo all the way back in September of 2010. The order was only placed in 2016, after, well, 6 years of development and testing. Renfe assumed and believed that they would receive the trains by 2020, and the contract was for 786.5 million euros. So this was a pretty big investment for them, but the AVRIL seemed to have pretty good potential. But they suffered delays, repeated delays, 4 years of delays. They weren't actually received by Renfe until March of 2024, and they were in regular service by late May. And that has gone somewhat poorly. You'd think with the delays that they would use that time to iron out most of the issues, because they must have been having them. Why else delay it if you weren't trying to fix something that was a problem? And that happens sometimes, I get it. But if you're gonna delay it for 4 years, the product better come out and be really good. And they ain't. For one thing, and this info is coming from OM the Rails, who actually rode the thing, the AVRIL is, not really a pleasant ride at all. They were designed for Renfei's Premier service, but they've split them between both the Premier as well as the Economy services. That'd be fine, except that they pretty much are built for economy. Even the first class ride, which he took, offered seats that were arguably worse than what you would get on a commercial airliner in the modern day. Which is embarrassingly bad, because I don't know if you've flown in a plane lately, but it is just a horrible experience and I hate every waking second of it. There is plenty of legroom, sure, the seats themselves are uncomfortable, but the biggest problem, more so than anything, is that this is a high-speed train, so it has to go really fast, and it does go fast. During his trip, they did hit 300 kilometers per hour. That's good. The problem here is that the trains don't ride smoothly. At all. Like, it's abysmal. They shake, rattle, and roll all over the place as you're going down the track. And that is both uncomfortable and also kind of freaking alarming if we're being real. I mean, we're talking about a high-speed train. Would you have any confidence in what you're riding in if you're going at 300 kilometers per hour and the thing is shaking the whole time? Me personally, I'd have some concerns. I would. He did not consider the experience that pleasant, though he did admit that the food offerings on board were good, as well as the accessibility options. They offer a handicapped bathroom, and there was plenty of space for wheelchairs, so they didn't do everything wrong with the overall layout of the train. I think more than anything, it's the shaking that has me alarmed. But is this video just about the pleasantness of the trip? Because let's be real, if the train moves and it goes fast, you know, comfort can come second. We get it, it's the modern day. Airlines don't care about our comfort, why would high-speed rail? Well, two things here, they really should. Because planes get away with this crap because they're much faster, and they can only fit so many people inside the plane and still be profitable. But trains don't have that issue. There's plenty of room on board the train. You can make it comfortable. But even if that's not a problem for you, how about the fact that we're about to get into what I usually discuss when I talk about bad trains, which is the reliability. Because the AVRILs have been frequently and routinely breaking down. And that's bad. One did it in a tunnel, and it took so long for the train to be rescued that the passengers wound up breaking the windows to get out of it because they were running short of fresh air. Seriously, that happened. What is the deal here? Well, according to Talgo and Renfei, the issue is not with the hardware element of the trains. I mean, the shaking is one thing, but that can be resolved. It's the software. Because, like pretty much all modern train sets, they have to have an advanced computer system incorporated into them. And that's fine, except this computer system, has a lot of problems. Just many problems. That's causing the trains to fail at any waking moment. Granted, this isn't all the AVRIL's fault. One was delayed because of issues with the overhead catenary, and that part has nothing to do with the train, that's true. But Renfei is apparently looking into suing Talgo over the whole mess. Because, well, let me put it this way. I've talked a lot about bad locomotives, bad train sets, bad rail vehicles on this channel. But the one thing I've always maintained is that there are times where these types of things do wind up with what are known as teething troubles. You can only test so much before you put something into service, and in service is where the true test begins. It's not unusual for a brand new locomotive or train set or whatever it may be to experience some issues when they first begin. These issues are resolved as time goes on, and eventually they become quite good. Sometimes trains are introduced and they're perfectly fine, but little minor problems every so often aren't something that nobody expects. To be honest, people do expect that to happen. But this is going way beyond just teething issues. The trains are actually having to stop routinely. They're delayed for hours, stuck in tunnels, and if they had teething problems and were delivered on time, that'd be one thing. But remember, they delayed them for 4 years. What were you doing for 4 years where there's this many issues with them? That seems to be Renfei's question. And I'm not sure Talgo has a really good answer right now. It's a bit of a mess, which is unfortunate, because again, I think the intention here was great. You're purchasing a train set from a Spanish company for your Spanish rail lines, and it's a high-speed one. This is something people are gonna use, it's gonna benefit them. On paper, everything should have been fine, but the product here seems to be, frankly, by most accounts, pretty bad. Can it be fixed? I think so. The internals can be updated to be more comfortable. I'm not sure what's causing the shaking issue, but I'm certain that can be resolved over time. The software bugs, of course, need to be worked out. But again, these are all problems that can be fixed, and they only just started working in spring. So I'm gonna be the good guy in this situation and entertain the possibility that over time, the Avrils might become pretty good sets in the long run. Right now, they're awful, though. That's a fact. And I can't ignore that. That's just a simple fact. The Spanish rail lines are suffering under the stress because of these horrid things. And I think the lawsuit that Renfei's filing is really mostly about, so who is gonna actually foot the bill for fixing the Avrils? In my opinion, at this point, it should probably be Talgo. Renfei hasn't had them long enough for this to be their fault. Talgo definitely owes it to them to fix the product and make it worth it. Because if I had spent €750 million on a train set that seems bent on suffocating people in tunnels, yeah, I'd be pretty mad too. And with that, a special thank you goes to all my underwater train finders. Some Dude 267, Orange Glass, Benjamin Owens, Anzac A1, Arthur Roy, Jack Carson's Railroad Videos, Lord Off 444, Icer for 1405, Charles Kwiatkowski, Matt Weaver, Tom Red Lion, NS Productions 8104, Wheeljack 8401, Rescues Greyhounds, The Baxter, Caleb Crosswhite, Andrew Bowen, Josh Johnson, Caleb Brainwaters, Perez Trenton, Master of None, Travis Alinsky, Jared Brussel, JBL Explorers, Tommy Rossini, Ben McCullough, Panzer Kitsune 131-232, Mark Holding, G Wiz, Mr. Zerevel, Hayden DeGrow, Metal for Life Guy, No, Kurt Forkham, Ohio Trucker 1, Mr. Sleepy, Harry, Drew Debris, George Kenny, Kevin Wood, Liam Wright, Morris Hillman Productions, Hendrick Motorsports Fan 5, Hannah Bird, Western Colorado History, Ryan Wehofer, Duraushi, Your Mom Liked It, Windy City Rails, A Person 723, William Nemo, Dr. Racer 78, Shimasu, Murder Drone Stall, Eric Hutton, AET Museum, NJ 1969, and of course, my dad. Till next time, this is Darkness, the Individual of Fun, farewell.